Alrighty, welcome everyone to the Virtual College Exploration Program in partnership with Colleges That Change Lives. This is the Centre College information session, but before I pass it over to the presenters, I'm going to kick us off with some housekeeping items if you have not heard these before. We have more sessions with Colleges That Change Lives through Tuesday evening, so if you're interested in continuing to connect with other colleges and universities across the nation, check back on our schedule. And when you do register for these sessions, you get a barcode in that confirmation email, but know that that barcode is not necessary for any of the virtual events that you participate in. We are recording all of these sessions and posting them to our website shortly after the session concludes. So whether you want to rewatch one you participated live in or watch one you may have missed, just check back on our website for those updated recordings. And then finally, you'll notice you'll see the Centre College team. You'll hear them. They cannot see or hear you all. This is webinar style format. So any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to type those into the Q&A box and the presenters will do their best to address those throughout the session. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Thomas to get us started.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate StriveScan and y'all's help with this. And thank you all for joining us today. My name is Thomas Becker. I'm one of the admission counselors here at Centre College in Danville, Kentucky, and I am joined by three of my esteemed colleagues. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then we'll kick things off, but I'll throw it first over to David.
Hi, my name is David. I am a longtime staff member at Centre College, a graduate myself, and really excited to be part of today's program. I will, as I look at my screen, I see Adriana next, so I will ask her to take over.
Thanks, David. Hello, everybody. My name is Adriana Martin. I'm the Assistant Director for Diversity Recruitment in our admission office. Also a Centre graduate, but I'm originally from Los Angeles. Super excited to be here with you all, really excited to talk about Centre, and I look forward to answering all of your questions. Clay, next to you.
Hello, crew. My name is Clay Taylor, and I am too a Centre grad. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions. I'm very happy to be sharing and talking about Centre with you all, and I look forward to hopefully staying in contact with you all as you continue your college search.
Absolutely. Thanks, team. So you all can go ahead and mute and turn your videos off. We'll pop in as it's time to hand things off. And we're going to dive right in. Just a couple housekeeping things. Like Jen said, please feel free to make use of that Q&A tab. We have a dedicated time at the end of this session to answer any questions you have. You're also welcome to email them to us if that would be easier. My email is thomas.becker, B-E-C-K-E-R, @centre.edu. So if you don't want to throw it in the Q&A and you have your email up, feel free to do that. I'm going to share my screen now. Fingers crossed that worked. So we're not going to tell you everything you need to know about Centre College here. We are going to tell you almost everything you need to know about Centre College. And it kind of leads off with the many accolades Centre has associated with it. We appear on many a list, many a ranking. This is just a small sampling of those. We are very proud to be recognized for the good things we do. But Centre is a lot more than just, okay, you appeared on this list. There's real substance to these many awards and hoorahs and slaps on the back that we get. Each of us has a Centre story. As my colleagues mentioned, we are all Centre grads here and we all had very, very different journeys, but this is a place that we love and it's a place that has definitely grounded us in many ways and has prepared us to be really good lifelong servant citizens in this globe that we share. And we hope that that might be the same for you as students or for you as counselors, the students that you work with. The first thing that you should know about Centre is where we are. We are located in Danville, Kentucky. It is the most charming small town in Kentucky. We don't argue with that much. Danville is a beautiful, thriving small town. It is the perfect mix of a rural college experience and an urban experience. We're caught right in the middle. The town of Danville itself is just shy of about 20,000 people. We are the only college in town, so there's a lot of loyalty and a lot of affection for Center in the town of Danville. Professors and staff members live in town. Students integrate themselves fully over the course of their 4 years into being Danville folks. We're about 35 minutes from the south side of Lexington, though, and we're about an hour and a half from Louisville. So if you're really jonesing for a bigger town experience, it's right up the road. But most folks tend to stay in Danville. It's a beautiful town, plenty of restaurants, stores, opportunities to get involved in service projects or worshiping communities, whatever you want to do to make Danville your own, it's there for you. There's a reason we're one of the top 10 college towns in the South. And it's a lot to do with Center College being there and being such a thriving and wonderful place to spend 4 years. I am a Danville diehard. I moved back to Danville after stints in much larger cities in the Southeast, and it is by far the favorite place of mine I've ever lived, hailing from originally outside Philadelphia. It's a really special spot, and folks love to come back to their adopted home of Danville. I'm going to turn things over to Clay to talk about the temporary 4-year residence of Danville. Clay, over to you.
Nice. So as Thomas mentioned, Center is kind of in the midst of a small town. So to reflect that, we kind of have a smaller campus. We average around a little bit over 1,400 students being on campus. So we're about the size of a typical high school, I would say. But because we're this size, you're not only going to get great interactions with the peers around you, but with your professors as well. Center is all about creating a big community and a big camaraderie in and of itself. So this small campus size really helps with diving into your academics and you furthering your goals and what you want to get after graduation. So to break that group down, around 52% of our students identify as female. You may wonder why we're even telling you this stat. Usually at a small liberal arts institution like Center, this number is around 65 to 70%. So we're just showing that we're balanced in a sense. We also have around 23% of underrepresented groups on campus, including 6% of international students. And we actually just enrolled our most diverse class in school history, with 27% of our incoming class being of an underrepresented group. So it is starting to become a bigger impact on campus. Around 15 years ago, that number was 8%. So we have been increasing increasingly as we've been going on throughout the years. And overall, 98% of our students live on campus, so everyone has an opportunity to do so. That 2% that lives off campus, I can count on my hands and feet how many students get the opportunity. It's usually an upperclassman who gets the opportunity. But other than that, everyone has an opportunity and a chance to live in a dorm provided by the campus. And that really helps with the residentiality of campus. You get to live, work, play athletics, and just really start building a community around the students who are around you, creating a whole different aspect at Center in and of itself. So what kind of student are we looking for? A typical Center student is someone who's curious. Our ultimate goal is to have our students become global citizens. So we'll touch on our study abroad program in and of itself here soon, but we want students who want to think outside the box. We want students who want to challenge themselves in and outside of the classroom. And we want students who want to create relationships with people who they typically wouldn't create relationships with outside their typical realm. So I think curiosity is the biggest key and the biggest adjective as far as what kind of student that we're looking for when applying to Center. And to dive into the academic side of things, I'll pass it on to Adriana.
Thanks, Clay. I think talking about community, as Clay did, is so important. I think that we see community definitely outside of the classroom, but community is also really important within the classroom. And one of the most special relationships that I have seen at Center really is that student and faculty relationship. So we're fortunate to have a really small student to faculty ratio. It's currently 10 to 1. And so that means that you're getting really small class sizes. resources, which we'll hear about after this slide, lots of professor contact, and contact with folks that really are experts in their field. We don't have teachers' assistants, we don't have graduate students or graduate assistants, and so you're getting to do high-level work with folks that really are experts in their field. We are a place, like many liberal arts colleges, where office hours are really important. Again, that contact with professors is really what makes the center experience the experience that it is. These are the folks that will write letters of recommendation for you when you apply to graduate school, who will serve as references for you when you apply to jobs. And so maintaining that relationship both as a student, but most importantly as a person, is a huge part of life at Center. Once students are in the classroom, this is a look at what an average classroom environment at Center is. So an average for us is about 18 students. You won't have a class of more than 30. And then like it says there, 60% have 20 or fewer students. I would say really, as you're getting into higher upper level courses, especially within some sort of major or minor of yours, classes are definitely getting smaller and smaller. So it's not uncommon to have, 8 students in a class. You definitely have to do your reading. You will get called on in a class of 8 students. But again, you're getting to do that high level academic work. You're getting to learn from your professors, but most importantly, I think you're also getting to learn from your peers. When we talk a bit about kind of the qualitative classroom experience, one thing that I talk a lot to students about is how we really are a place of balance. So we're definitely a rigorous academic environment, but that's balanced by really great support. We're a place where students are challenged to rise to the occasion, challenged to do better, to be better. But again, you have that comfort. And then we're also a place where students find accomplishment in a job well done. I think our students really are students who like to do well academically, who enjoy the academic experience. But we're not really a cutthroat environment. I think our students have a really great understanding that I can do well and you can do well, and we can do those things together, and it doesn't have to be at the expense of one another. So yeah, I think a really balanced experience. I've talked on these things before about it's kind of serendipitous that our name is Center, because we do have that really great balance, and it's great to see that in the classroom experience as well. So this is our list of majors and minors. Students at Center do not declare a major until spring of their sophomore year. So you have about a year and a half of exploration. When you look at our list of majors and minors, you'll notice that these are pretty traditional liberal arts majors. So pretty broad areas of study. You're not going to look at this list and see something super specific like marketing or sports management or sports therapy. Does that mean we don't send students into those fields? No, we absolutely send students into those fields. I think for us, it's more of a theory of how we're sending students into those fields. For us, it's really important to give students transferable soft skills that research shows employers really want in the folks that they employ and hire. And so in many ways, we're not just preparing students for the first job that they get after graduation, we're really preparing them for every single job that comes after that. So Center graduates will know how to write well, how to present information well, how to think critically, how to solve problems creatively, and all of those things can be transferred into any sort of career field that you go into. If you are a student, though, that does have a very specific pathway that you would like to follow, we do a lot of that advising through these pre-professional programs that you see on the screen. These are not tied to a specific major, so you can certainly choose any major you would like to, but we have a dedicated pre-professional advisor for whichever graduate program you'd like to go into, and that advisor is an additional advisor to your major advisor. So they work with you all 4 years, make sure that you have the prerequisites that you need for graduate school, maybe that you're taking advantage of research or internships that would really make your application competitive. And then they're guiding you through the application process. The degree partnerships that you see there in engineering, nursing, and teaching work similarly. We have a dedicated advisor. There might be some suggestions on majors and minors for these degree partnerships, but really we have a pretty open curriculum. And then lastly, one of my favorite topics really is the research opportunities. I think research is one of the ways in which the relationship between students and professors really turns into a transformative relationship. Research at Center is extremely accessible. It's one of the things that we guarantee, which we'll talk a little bit about some of the experiences that we guarantee for students later. But research is a huge part of life at Center. It doesn't just happen in the sciences. You will find research in the humanities, you will find research in the social sciences, and typically it's really as easy as talking to a professor, asking if they would like to mentor you, or asking them if you can hop on their research, and really diving deep into some areas of study. I think that research is one of the ways in which our students, again, are really transformed by that Center experience. So that's most of what I have about academics. I'll turn it over to David to talk a bit about the student experience.
Yeah, as we transition from academic opportunities to extracurricular life at the college, there are dozens upon dozens of ways to be involved and active and engaged at Center College. And we've chosen to highlight just a few here, trying to give you a representative sample, if you will. 42% of our students are involved in performing or visual arts in one way or another. And part of the point here is to let you know that participation has a broad definition. There are lots of different ways you can be involved. We don't have nearly that many students majoring in those particular disciplines. You can major or minor in music, dramatic art, or visual art. We also have an art history program. But some students merely take some classes in those areas without any intent of majoring. We have other students that may pursue those really entirely as an extracurricular pursuit. You can be part of a vocal or instrumental ensemble, a musical ensemble at Center, without majoring or minoring in those areas. You could be heavily involved in the dramatic art program, on stage or backstage, behind the scenes, without being a drama major. So the opportunities are very broad and open. One of the things about a small college, particularly a small college that does not offer graduate degree programs, is that everything on that campus is really open to every student that goes there. We have an identical percentage of students as are involved in the arts, would be involved in athletic endeavors at the college. We're Division III of the NCAA. I'm going to talk a little bit more about athletics on the next slide, but want you to know that in my mind, that seems like a pretty high percentage of participation, and I suppose it is, but it's really reflective of our overall size. Again, we're a small college. If you have about 1,400 students total, you have 21 teams for men and women. When you start to do the math, you need a pretty high percentage of participation in those athletic programs if you want to be competitive, and we are. And then the final extracurricular area we're going to highlight here would be community service. That 85% participation in community service is an accurate figure. It might be a little misleading in that it also represents a very broad range of involvement. 85% of our students are not engaged daily in activities around community service. Some of our students are, but for some students, it's something they do maybe on a weekly basis. For some students, it may be an even more occasional kind of thing, but there are broad opportunities to be involved in service in big and small ways at Center College. Focusing a little more on athletics here at Center, as I mentioned, we're Division III of the NCAA. And one of the things I would want you to know about Division III athletics generally, but also athletics specifically at Center College, is that we want to win, we're competitive. Athletes at the college will pour their heart and soul into their sport, but they do that for about I don't know, 2 hours a day during the season. And the rest of the time, they're pouring their heart and soul into their studies or Greek life or service activities or any number of other extracurricular pursuits. So athletics at Center occupy a very discrete piece of your time. It is absolutely possible and is typically the case that athletes are involved in a variety of things beyond athletics. It does not dominate your experience at Center College. It can be a wonderful, valuable, very fulfilling part of the experience at the college, but it's one of the things you do at Center. It's not the thing you do. And then I think we're going to circle back around to Thomas now.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, David. So Center is known for a lot of things, quality faculty, beautiful campus. But the thing that most folks who may not have heard of Center before have probably heard about us for our study abroad program. Center is very proud to house one of the best study abroad programs in the country, not only in terms of our rate of participation, but in terms of the quality of our program itself. So over 80% of Center students are going to study abroad at least once during their time with us. Nearly a third are going to study abroad with us twice or more. All of the highlighted countries that you see on this globe map here, including the United States, where we have a number of study away programs, all of these highlighted countries are places where Center instruction has taken place. We have semester-long programs in 10 different countries, so that's going to be your full fall or full spring semester. We also have programs that take place during Center term. Center term is our 3-week January term. It's a very fun time of year because you're devoted entirely to one course. We have some really awesome courses that are taught on campus right in Danville, but that's also a popular time for folks who might be wary of spending perhaps 3 months abroad to know that they could just spend 3 weeks abroad with a Center professor, with their Center friends in a new and exciting environment, really taking that classroom experience on the road. That's also a very popular option for our students. These are just a few of the images of places where Center students have gone, whether it's doing independent study, whether it's group study, whether it's an exchange or a Center-in program. All of these are really important to us. You know, Center is a place that values a global education and an international perspective. So for those of you who are totally sure that they are going to be studying abroad in college, I hope you'll take a good look at Center because you can't do much better than Center College. But for those of you who might be wary, the things that I would say to you are these. Number one, it doesn't hurt to have a bad study abroad program because you might change your mind. Number two, our program is entirely voluntary. We don't make anyone study abroad. We just have a really good program that lots of folks take advantage of. But third, and perhaps most importantly, our study abroad program is one that encourages folks to bring their international experiences back to Danville, Kentucky, and enrich that community, you know, our Center College campus community. So even if you haven't studied abroad, 80% of the people in any one of your classes are bringing that international perspective into your classroom, really broadening your horizons. And it really enhances the value of the Center degree, not one that keeps you stuck in Danville, Kentucky, but one that really is a worldwide education. We do feel very strongly that every student at Center should have the opportunity to study abroad if they want to. So much so that we have folded it into our 3-part Center commitment. Center commitment is about 20 years old. Many schools have something like this now, but ours has stood the test of time. It has 3 parts. Number one, we guarantee that all students that want to will have the opportunity to study abroad. We also guarantee that all students will have the opportunity to complete a faculty mentored research project or an internship for academic credit before they graduate. And we guarantee that we will graduate you in 4 years. And as long as you meet all basic expectations of being a good student and community member, you're not failing classes, you're not suspending your college experience. If we fail to deliver on any one of those 3 things, the 5th year of your tuition at Center is on us. And in 20 years, we have never had to pay for a 5th year for a student because we haven't met the Center commitment for them. I would say that that is a huge testament to our faculty and staff who are phenomenal advisors to our students. But I would also say that that's kind of a really good testament to our students. You'd be very hard pressed to find a Center College student who doesn't know about the Center commitment or about these opportunities. So they're often the ones encouraging each other to make sure that they're studying abroad or taking up really cool projects. But students are interested in this. They come to Center because they know they can have this quality, chock full 4-year experience and then get out with a great degree to change the world. I'm going to hand things over to Clay to talk about what that path looks like from beginning to after the end.
Yeah, so how do we make this work? If you haven't already noticed, Center grads are pretty proud and prideful of the accomplishments and achievements that we've had or that we've come across as we've been a Center student. And I think that really sticks to the testimony of being such a community-like college. And because of that, we have a 91% first-year retention rate. And that means that everyone, students included, are working to keep everyone to come back on campus. And again, I think that just reflects the kind of community that we have and the type of relationships that you build even while you're just stepping on campus for the first time. You'll automatically meet people who will be lifelong friends. And I'm hopeful that it continues on so that we've displayed that throughout this entire presentation. Another thing that we do really well that's part of our Center commitment is that we have an 82% 4-year graduation rate. So we're actually ranked best college in Kentucky by Forbes because of this. So you get all those opportunities and experiences within that 4-year frame. So study abroad, internship, research opportunity, that all happens within that 4-year frame. And just to put it into perspective, in higher education in Kentucky in general, if you were to take Center out of the 4-year graduation rate, it drops down to 30%. And then with Center back into the equation, the next institution below us is 16 points below. So again, we are really working hard to make sure that you get the full college experience within that 4-year frame and then on towards a career path or to a secondary institution of your choosing. And if you already haven't seen this as well throughout the presentation, we're currently ranked #1 happiest alumni in the country. So the alumni factor reaches out to alumni of colleges to 1, see how the college experience was, and 2, see how it was postgraduate life. It turns out the Center is the #1, and I think that's a big testimony to the donations that we have in. We also have 3 scholarship options that our students can choose from, 3 of them being full ride, full cost. And I think that's a big testimony for a college our size to have that many scholarship options. It really shows that we want to keep the Center cycle going as we continue on, hopefully for the next 200 years plus. All right, so a pretty important part of how to make this a possibility, we have what's called the Center for Career and Professional Development housed on campus, and that's a location that's close right near Sutcliffe Hall. It's in the main spot on campus, really, and it's housed to seek those internship and research opportunities, help you build up your resume, and really just open the door for opportunities as you're beginning to piece together your career path. They're there to help you as soon as you step on foot on campus in your first year up until your senior year, really up until you graduate. And it's a house on campus that really accomplishes and helps our students find out what path they want to go down and finding opportunities and internships that we can find opportunities for you in the Danville area. Over the course of the summer, we can find some internship opportunities within your hometown. We've sent students to DC, New York, California, Florida, Texas. So it's really up to your discretion. And I think that's something that Center does really well. As long as you're vocal about what you want to do and what you want to get out of your college experience, the Center Career Professional Development will help you get to that point. And to reflect that, we have been averaging around a 97% success rate 10 months after graduating from Center. So around 2/3 of those students will go on to be fully employed in these specific realms. And then around 1/3 of them will go on to advanced studies elsewhere. So reverting back to the Center for Career Professional Developments and other pre-professional career paths, those really help get to those points of after graduating. And then over 2/3 of center students will get a second degree at some point. And I think that type of reflects that what kind of college we are. We are a learning institution. So it makes sense that if we find a subject that we're passionate about further down the line, then we'll go pursue that subject. It's actually ingrained into our motto. Our motto is Doctrina Lux Mentis, learning is the light of the mind. And I think that's reflective throughout your 4 years and then post-grad life as well. We're always learning and always trying to make this world a better place. And to reflect that as well, we're going to pass it on to Adriana so she can talk about some of the programs that we host.
Thanks, Clay. Yes, in the spirit of kind of always learning and growing, campus is also growing and improving. We have a number of exciting updates. So the first is one of our new Study Away programs. Thomas talked about the study abroad experience and mentioned that we have some domestic programs. So we do have a new program in New York City. It's a 3-way partnership between Center, Rhodes, and Sewanee. We're really excited for this program to start back up. This program will be interesting. It'll have a neat focus on art, but it'll also have a really neat focus on anthropology, really thinking about the ways in which New York City has been influenced by a really metropolitan population and a very international population. So once things kind of get back and going, we're excited to bring our first cohort of students to New York. We also just recently welcomed a new president, Dr. Milton Moreland. He came to us from another CTCL school, which is great. Really a president who understands the liberal arts experience, is very committed to the undergraduate experience, which is something that Center does really well. And so we're really excited to welcome him to our campus. We do have some fun construction going on. We have some updates to our Olin Hall. Olin is where programs like math, physics, computer science, chemistry are all housed. And so that building is getting a nice facelift and a nice little addition. It'll be really exciting to see the kind of research that students get to do in these really great state-of-the-art labs that we'll be putting in there. But it's also really exciting to see our academic spaces reimagined. Really, Olin is kind of the last in our suite of the academic core buildings on campus to be updated. So by the time Olin Hall is renovated, all of our academic spaces will have been renovated in the past few years, really to serve students to their best capacity. And then a really unique program that we just started is the Center Works program. Center Works is located downtown, and it's a great social entrepreneurship program for us. It's brand new. The kind of location of it is downtown in this really great building that is above the bookstore and a local coffee shop. But it'll be really great to see the ways in which our students engage meaningfully with the Danville and the Boyle County community, to think about all of the ways in which we can help and improve the local economy. I think students will be thinking about really great kind of new businesses, inspiring an entrepreneurial spirit within campus, which is a little bit new for us. But this program is just starting. We had our first cohort. I think they're starting next week for their first full boot camp, and I'm excited to see how that goes. And then lastly is our Stay Centered campaign, which is really how we kicked off our new socially distant learning that happened in the spring. If you're curious about all of the ways that our students have stayed connected in Center, you can check that out on social media. But really it's something that has continued and will continue throughout the fall. Currently, we do have a number of students that will be returning to campus with us. So we're excited to welcome students back, but we really are utilizing a maximum flexibility policy. So our students do have the option of whether or not they return to campus. Professors also have the option of whether they teach virtually or on campus. And so we're really finding all the ways that we can to meet students, professors, and staff members where they are, where they feel comfortable, all while staying centered and staying healthy, of course. That's most of the updates that I have. David, take it off from here.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of close out the presentation part of our session here before we get to addressing your questions with some nuts and bolts stuff about the admission process, and want to try to point you to some useful resources as you work through your college search. At Center, we have three different application plans and 3 different application deadline dates. I won't get into too much detail here, but want to point out that we do have an early decision plan. That deadline date for application is November 15th, and note on your screen that it says binding under that, but non-binding for the other options. Binding, that simply means that if you apply early decision someplace, you're essentially you are assuring the college that you fully intend to enroll if you are offered admission. That's not necessarily the case with early action or regular decision. With those options, our assumption is you're applying to 2 or 3 or 4 or more other colleges, and you're just as likely to wind up at one of those schools as you would be at Center. Early decision, because of the binding nature of it, it makes sense for a relatively small number of students. The key there is that you have to have a lot of things figured out early on in your senior year. You have to have a good sense that you know that's the place you want to go. In many cases at other schools, if you make an early decision commitment, you're doing that without regard to financial assistance. When you apply early decision to a college, you're not likely to know if you'll be receiving a scholarship or what a financial aid package might look like. The version of early decision that we offer at Center has more assurances in that you will get a complete financial aid award before you ultimately have to make that commitment to enroll. Still, if you apply early decision, our assumption is your intent is to enroll at Center College, but we will present you with a complete financial aid before you have to sign on the dotted line, as they say. Moving on to some resources for you. You'll see on your screen now members of the admission staff with email addresses and phone numbers. You can see Adriana and Thomas and Clay and myself, and then some of our colleagues that are not with us today, and we'll be adding to this list. We're in the process of hiring a few more colleagues. That information will be easy to get to on our website. So if you want to, and you'll be able to tell which person in our office is the recruiter or the admission counselor for your specific geographic area. That's typically the way admission offices divide that up. That and other resources can be found on our website. If you look at the sort of black box there in the sort of upper right-hand corner of your screen, our main webpage address is center.edu. Make sure you spell center the way we do, which was the fashion in 1819 when we were founded, CENTRE.edu. And then if you follow that path, you'll find a drop-down box on that main webpage that says apply. And if you click visit and then go to visit virtually, there'll be a plethora of resources there for you. And I'm actually on another screen pulling it up so I don't leave something out. There are live presentations you can register for. You can see a recorded information session. If you go to that site, there is an interactive mobile app you can use on your phone to tour our campus. It's the guidebook app. There are virtual tours that have been recorded that you can look at for the entire campus, for specific buildings and parts of campus. There are a variety of videos and webinars. We've got a YouTube playlist. There is an interactive campus map. There there's a ton of different ways you can connect with us. And if you just keep scrolling to the bottom of that page, there's a button where you can find your admission counselor. So there are a lot of great resources there. And then on the screen you're looking at, there are also a lot of different social media venues to connect with us as well. And I think I think Thomas is going to take the lead here, but now we're going to try to address.
Thank you, David. I would ask my friends to turn their videos and mics back on. We have some great questions here. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll go through these efficiently yet effectively, which was one of my center professors' favorite ways to describe how they liked papers written for them. Efficient, but effective. So feel free to use that Q&A box. We'll go in as we can, answering questions. I'll just hopscotch around here and folks feel free to dive in. Question here, are there student groups for some minorities? Examples like Hillel, Black Student Union, LGBTQIA+. Who wants to take a whack at that one? Adriana?
Yes, we do have a number of kind of identity-focused student organizations. We often refer to them as affinity groups on campus, but those cross a lot of different identities, whether it is kind of gender-based identities, race, ethnicity, religion, immigration status, lots of different student groups that you can join. If there's one that isn't present and you would like to create it, super easy to start a club on campus and get funding for it, but we do already have a bunch of existing student groups, so absolutely.
Awesome, thank you. Clay, we have a couple questions here about Greek life at Center. How does it fit into our philosophy as a small liberal arts college? Does it separate the college into two groups, or is it more integrated? What does Greek life look like at Center College, I guess would be the overarching theme of those few questions we got.
So Greek life, I would say, is around 50-50 on Center's campus. Something that Center does really well as far as integrating and being an inclusive campus is that we have Spring Rush. So you get to actually meet people and get to know people as far as the fraternities and sororities on campus. We have 6 fraternities and 5 sororities. So you get to really interact and meet those people throughout the fall in our what's called our center term. It's in the month of January. It's just one course for 3 weeks, but we can dive into that later if you guys have questions. But yeah, it's around 50-50 and it is very inclusive. So it's not a pressure-filled sense whatsoever. The fraternities are the ones that host parties in their fraternity houses, and it's open for the entire campus to be involved in. I would say around half of the people that I knew of Center were half Greek life and half non-Greek, so it's really not that big of a playing field of the people who you'll be interacting with on campus.
Awesome, thank you. David, could you speak to student accessibility, students with ADHD, learning differences, access-related pieces? Could you weigh in just very briefly on that?
Yeah, there are some pretty good resources on campus, and those are actually being greatly bolstered in the coming year. We saw a need to strengthen that area at Center, and we're in the process of doing that. Generally, the short answer is yes, but it also depends on the individual, what strategies they've used to cope throughout their academic career. Can probably employ those at Center. There will be help to help you figure out how that works at Center. My recommendation would be, at any college you're looking at, make sure you find the person that is responsible for those resources and have conversations with them before you decide to enroll at that college. And the other thing I would say is that in any kind of learning difference or challenge or processing issue that a student has, the students that raise their hand and ask for help are the ones that are successful.
Thank you. We have a number of questions here about financial aid and how that works at Center. So rapid fire answering a few of these different questions. Admission at Center is need blind. We are not aware of any financial situations when we are making an admission decision. When we are calculating your financial aid, we are aware of your need. We do not guarantee meeting 100% of demonstrated need, but we often do and often exceed demonstrated need. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of folks will say, yeah, we're doing this now. We're meeting 100% of demonstrated need. Most of those places have been doing that for a really long time. And Center is very wise and prudent with its resources, making sure that we get as many students as we can who want to engage with a Center education in a meaningful way through the doors. And we do everything we can to make sure that finances aren't a barrier there. We have a few questions about housing, and then I will have one other question to close us out. What is housing like? Is there sober housing? What does that look like at Center? We have a variety of living options. There are community interest clusters where folks can gather together, petition the Residence Life Office. I'm not aware of there being a sober house at the moment. I know that a lot of folks will band together if that's a way that they want to live and get a suite style living arrangement, or all decide to try and live on the same hall. That's definitely something that can be accommodated. But housing, like Clay said, is guaranteed all 4 years at Center. Your housing gets better over the course of your 4 years. You start in the traditional 2-bedroom dorm and can work your way all the way up to an apartment or townhouse, all owned by the college. I know that there are lots of questions here we didn't get to. I would strongly encourage you all to reach out to us as you can. Our email addresses will be available to you. We'll follow up with you after this session. But we are so grateful that you have joined us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our inboxes are always open. Please feel free to be in touch. And I'm going to shift things back on over to Jen.
And I want to thank you all, Center College team, for being here and sharing your afternoon and all this great and valuable knowledge with the audience. So conversation definitely doesn't have to stop here. I'll make sure that the Center College teams gets your information. So feel free to continue that conversation after this. But as you exit the Zoom webinar, you will be taken to a quick survey. It's only 4 questions. So we'd love to hear your feedback regarding this particular session. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we'll have all of our recordings posted to our website, and there are more sessions with colleges that change lives through Tuesday evening. So we hope to see you continue to sign up. So I hope everyone has a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. And thanks once again to the Center College team. Have a great day.